In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace your driver's side window regulator. This will apply to both sides, so let's get the door panel off. To remove this door panel, I'm going to start with this piece over here, the master switch panel. Pop it up, flip it over, you'll see all the electrical connectors. Go ahead and unplug all of these. They all have a little tab that locks them in, and if you press that tab, you can pull the wires right out. Next, I want to take out the door handle bezel. Either use a trim tool or just your fingers. Pry from the back side of it, just like this. And then continue prying towards the front. Remove it. There's going to be a Phillips head screw right here. We'll have to take that out. Set it aside safely. On the bottom of the door, there will be two Phillips head screws, one on each end. Go ahead and remove both. Right in front of the grab handle here, where you removed the switch panel, there's going to be a 7mm bolt. Go ahead and remove this one. There it is, set it aside. At this point, you can grab the door panel and lift it up. It'll pop out of place. Let's also remove the speaker, this time with a 6mm socket. Don't go too far with it, it still has wires connecting it. Flip it over. Right here you'll see the connector. Next, remove this piece right here, 7mm bolts. Set it aside safely. Now let's peel off this vapor barrier. Set it aside. Now with the ignition on, I'm going to reconnect my window switch just so I can roll the window up. I'm going to put it up almost all the way. There we go. I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop right here. I need to access the two bolts that hold the window to the regulator through these holes right here. So this is where you want to stop. And then once we unbolt it, then we'll raise the window up by hand and secure it. And now disconnect the switch. Turn off your ignition. So now if you look through these holes that I just mentioned, you'll see an 11mm nut through each one of them. So let's unbolt these. Do the same to this one over here. Now the window is fully detached from the regulator. It's not going to fall down, but you can lift it up and secure it in place. At this point, you can use suction cups. They make special suction cups that hold your window up, or you can use some painter's tape, which you most likely have laying around. I recommend painter's tape over any other tape because it doesn't leave the sticky residue behind. Also, you want to have a clean window regardless of what you use, because if it's dirty, nothing will stick to it. Now I'm going to hold my window, pull the regulator forward to unlock it from the studs that it go through, the nuts we just took off. Okay, so now the window's sitting on top of the regulator. I can pull it up, close it manually, and I have my tape here that I'm going to stick to the window. Run it up over the door and back down onto the window here. I like to do about 3 strips going from front to back so that it is properly secured and I know it's not going to fall down on me. Okay, now the window is safely secured. You still want to be careful because you never know when the tape lets go, but it's secured. Now with my 11mm socket, I'm going to unbolt these 2 nuts here. Okay, this part of the regulator is off. And then right here, unfortunately, we'll have to use something, whether it's a cutoff wheel or a drill, and either drill out these rivets or cut them off. I'm going to choose to cut them off. The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to make an X and then use a chisel and a hammer and chisel the head of it off. And the reason I don't want to drill them is because they have this little pin sticking out through the middle, and it'll be a lot more difficult for me to actually drill than it will be to just cut. But you can do whatever you want, whatever's easiest for you. take a chisel and a hammer and hammer the head of the rivet off. All right, there's one. Now repeat the process to the rest of the rivets. Let's unplug the window regulator, and then we can take it out through this opening right here. You got to find the right angle, and once you do, it should slide right out. There you have it. And now we need to swap over the motor to the new regulator. With an 8mm socket, let's remove these 3 bolts that hold the motor onto the regulator. Be careful on this last one because it's under tension. Take your new regulator and very, very carefully turn it into place. I'm going to hold it here, and now I'm going to place the motor, window motor, on here. Okay, once you get the motor lined up, let's snug up these bolts here, the screws. And you have to make sure, because one of them, it's this one right here, has a little sleeve that needs to fit in to the motor. I'll show you that. Basically that little lip right there needs to fit inside of the motor. So there we go. I just got it to fit in, so I'm going to hold it like that and snug it enough for it not to pop out. Then I'm going to snug the other ones. And now back to this one. Now take your regulator, slide it back into the door. Try and secure this first. And had 2 mounting nuts. I'm going to put those on. Now for the rest of it, right here you'll see a slot, and the regulator has a tab. That tab needs to fit through the slot like that. This will hold it in place for you. So now you want to use some rivets and rivet the window regulator back onto the door. I have my rivet gun. Obviously you will need that for rivets. Let's start with this one. Pop in the correct size, slide your rivet gun on, and what this is going to do, I'll show you in a second, but basically it's going to squish the rivet down and pinch it from the backside. So you just want to pump this, and as you pump it, there we go, it'll squish it until it breaks off. Just as a demonstration, here's what happens when you pump it. It's hard to hold it steady, but it's squishing the rivet down, pulling it through, and kind of makes it look like this, which from the back side looks like that, and it just clamps it down onto the door. Now you would just go along and do the same to all 6 of them. Let's tighten these 2 up as well. Perfect. Now let's get the window back onto the regulator. Get the wire from the window motor through this smaller opening here. Don't put it through the speaker hole. And plug it in. Make sure the speaker wire, or any other wire for that matter, is not behind this window track. You don't want it back here. You want it in front here. Otherwise it'll get sliced off by the window. I'm going to plug in my window switch so I can bring my window regulator up right about, let's see. Okay, right about here. That's perfect right there. I can see through both of these holes that the slot in the regulator will line up with the window as I bring the window down. So now I'm going to unplug this. That way it can't move. And I'm going to turn the key off. Very carefully peel off your tape or whatever you had supporting the window. If you just put pressure on it one way, it's less likely to slide off. Now bring it down. Whoa. Oh, okay, well, it's already on the regulator. Can't go down much. So now let's actually attach it. All right, this is the best view that I can get you so I can demonstrate what you have to do. You have to grab onto this regulator, pull it forward, slide the window down. The window has a stud that's built into it. And as soon as it lines up, there you have it. Slid right in, right over here. You have to do the same on the front side, and perfect. The window is on the regulator. It had 2 mounting nuts, obviously one for each stud. Put those on. To tighten these, I usually prefer to do it by hand. That way I don't accidentally over tighten this. Okay, make it snug, and then do the same to the front one, which you can see right here. Perfect. I'm going to plug my window switch back in, and before I go any further, I'm going to test it to make sure that everything works. That's at the top. There you go. Auto down still works. Battery's a little low, but it works. So let's continue. Grab your vapor barrier and make sure the wires all go through, and just try to stick it on the best you can. If it doesn't stick anymore, well, you could use some tape, but it's a good idea to always put this back because it does protect the door panel and it makes sure that water doesn't get in here. Next, put this piece back. This one had the 2 7mm headed bolts. Snug this up. Reconnect the speaker and line it up. Start in the 4 6mm headed screws that secure it to the door. Snug it up. Okay. Make sure it doesn't rattle, otherwise it'll be super annoying when you listen to music. And if it does, you can usually put a piece of foam behind it and then squish that foam. That'll make sure it doesn't rattle. Put on the door panel, you can see it has a bunch of hooks on the bottom and a couple in the middle, and they need to slide down. Push the wires through this hole, line up the lock indicator at the top, otherwise you'll crush it and bend the rod. And then push this up, in, and down. Oops, lock indicator popped out. All right. Looks like it's in everywhere. Feel around it. If it feels like there's a large gap between the panel and the door itself, that means the hooks aren't in. But this one feels perfect. So, having said that, let's bolt it back into place. I'm going to start with this Phillips head screw at the door handle. Make sure it's nice and snug. And then let's get the door handle bezel back in. It has a tab at the back that needs to slide in first, and then a clip at the front, just like that. There's a 7mm screw that goes right in here, right next to the grab handle. Okay, since I'm in this area, I might as well put the window switch back in, plug in all the connectors. Slide the back in first because it has this hook that needs to lock in, and then the front has just a clip. Pop it in. And at the bottom of the door, in each corner, there is one Phillips head screw that secures the door panel in. And there you have it.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.